What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 13 preview, and there's a lot to talk about in this one. We've got midweek information from the Champions League games. I'm going to talk about captaincy and specifically triple captain as well. We've got players on 4 yellow cards and what that means for FPL, wildcard draft, and I'm going to answer some of your questions as well. So let's get into it. So let's start with some midweek information from Liverpool and Arsenal. They've got a Champions League game on Wednesday night, so they had a press conference yesterday on Tuesday. Wirtz, Bradley and Frimpong not training. We knew Frimpong and Bradley would be out anyway. Slot said before game week 12 that Wirtz will be out for Forest but probably back soon after. But if he's not training, he's not going to play midweek. And that obviously puts big doubts on his game time at the weekend as well. So if Wirtz is still out, Gakpo becomes a better option for free hit 13. And if you've still got him, you can probably keep hold of him for that West Ham game. Could it be Isak, Ekitike, Salah front three against West Ham? Possibly. But you'd think with Wirtz out, Gakpo's minutes are quite good. He also spoke about Gomez and basically Szoboszlai playing right back. Essentially, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, Gomez is an option for that right back spot. And although he's in the squad, I think, for the Champions League game, Slot said that he wasn't able to train last week every single time. So he's training a little bit, but not all the time. So obviously he can't be used regularly, which means if you're looking at Szoboszlai, he's probably going to play right back like he did against Forest. Now, he did get forward quite a lot and into some nice attacking positions. He's not a terrible option, but he's on 4 yellow cards. He's a midfielder playing right back. It's not great. For Arsenal, Arteta spoke about your question, Havertz. He said really good, both of them. So in the next few days, they're going to have a repeat scan to see if we can push them for the weekend. So both of those are close to returning. He also spoke about Odegaard. He said, we're going to have a meeting now to decide on Martin. He was really close for the last game, so he was almost in the squad for the Spurs game in game week 12. We are hopeful that tomorrow he can be involved. So it looks quite likely that Odegaard will be in the squad for the Champions League game, potentially get some minutes, and then start to get integrated back in the team in the Premier League. For me, Eze is probably a no-go, especially for this week against Chelsea away, because as soon as Odegaard's back, that puts, a dampener on Eze's minutes. It doesn't mean that Eze's going to get taken out of the team. Maybe he's playing so well that Odegaard will have to work his way back in. But at some point, Odegaard's going to play, either from the start or off the bench. That means Eze's not going to be playing 80 to 90 minutes every week, and it's not a guarantee he'll get moved to the left every game. So he just won't be as nailed as he has been. So for me, that's worth avoiding. Come back to it in game week 14. I also want to talk about the Newcastle, Man City and Chelsea lineups from their Champions League game last night, because there is a good bit of information that's relevant to FPL. For Newcastle, after speaking about Harvey Barnes yesterday, saying I probably wouldn't go for him because Gordon could be back soon. Gordon was back, did start, but so did Barnes. So it was Barnes on the left, Gordon through the middle, and then Murphy on the right. So Voltemada was the one that was given a rest. The problem with that is it doesn't really help you moving forward in terms of Barnes' minutes, because Voltemada will definitely come back in against Everton away in game week 13. So he'll play through the middle, and it could be Barnes on the left because Gordon's only just back from injury, but it could also just be Gordon left wing. And Gordon got subbed around the 70th minute last night. So he is going to continue to get managed because of the amount of fixtures Newcastle have got. But he could start on the left. So what happens to Barnes in that situation? Does he go to the right, or does Murphy start again? Either way, the minutes are just not guaranteed. My guess would be that Barnes will probably start again because Gordon's only just back. But that is just a massive guess. That could be wrong. And also, on paper, this week's game, Everton away, is the toughest of the next 3. Like Spurs at home and Burnley at home are probably better. So even if you get Barnes this week, you don't guarantee it for 14 or 15. So for me, he's probably one to avoid. I think Voltemada comes back in. That means you've got Gordon and Barnes competing for the left. Barnes can play on the right, absolutely. But Murphy's good for Newcastle in that position. So I would probably just ignore them all for now. In defence, Burn was obviously suspended for the game at the weekend against Man City, so didn't play. He was straight back in for the Champions League game in left back, so Lewis Hall didn't play. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there because Eddie Howe loves Dan Burn, but I think Newcastle are better with Lewis Hall playing left back. So if at the weekend, Newcastle against Everton, Hall comes back in, does Dan Burn just go to centre back? Probably, because Dan Burn just always plays. I think if you want to buy a Newcastle defender right now, it might just have to be Chow. He seems the most nailed on. So last night it was Burn left back, Livramento right back, Cher and Chow as the centre backs.
If you want a Newcastle defender, it's probably Chow. And I think he's okay. Like, if you had to play him against Everton away, it's fine. Burnley at home in 15 is okay as well. But I think when I look at this stretch of fixtures, I just think longer term there's better options out there that are going to be more consistent for defensive contributions, probably more attacking as well. So I would probably be ignoring Newcastle defence for the most part, unless you've already got them. And then obviously you just keep hold of them. That's fairly straightforward. And I think I'd be ignoring the attack as well. So for Man City, it was a great lineup and a great result. Not for Man City fans, but for FPL managers that want to buy City players this week or that are on free hit 13. Because there was only one player that kept their place from the Newcastle game, and that was Nico Gonzalez in midfield. The front three was Bob, Marmoush, and Savinho. So even Haaland got a rest. The other two midfielders were Reinders and Lewis. Kushinov started right back instead of Nunes. Aït-Nouri started left back instead of O'Reilly. And then it was Ake and Stones instead of Diaz and Vardiol. Even in goal, Trafford started ahead of Donnarumma, and they lost 2-0. And actually, when this lineup came out, I saw Harry tweet to say that this was really good for free hit 13. I kind of jokingly replied to say, this is Pep. It could just be the same team, but Haaland comes back in for the weekend. But honestly, if this was an audition, it was a really bad one. And it doesn't mean that some of these players won't keep their place, but I would not be surprised if it just goes straight back to being the team that played against Newcastle. At half-time, Foden, Doku and O'Reilly all came on. So this is a great result for anyone that's on free hit 13. And arguably, it's good for people that just want to buy Man City players. Because they've got Leeds at home this week. The midweek is Fulham away in game week 14. Then it's Sunderland at home. Then it's Palace away in 16. And if you're not free hitting this week and you've still got it left, 16 is a very popular week. So you could potentially even take your City players out for Palace. Even if you don't have free hit, it wouldn't be the worst fixture to have to play them in. And then it's West Ham at home in 17. And if you manage to get some nailed-on Man City players, then it's Forest away, then it's Sunderland away. The next period between game weeks 13 and 19 is quite good for Man City. Now, can I sit here and guarantee that Foden, Doku, O'Reilly, Vardiol, Diaz will start every single one of those games? Of course not. I'm never going to do that for Man City. But I think Pep basically found out last night, if he's going to rotate that much, not going to be good. And I think you can afford to do it in the Champions League, because honestly, there's not that much jeopardy. If you don't finish top 8, Man City, who cares, right? You're going to finish in the top 24, so you're going to have the chance to go to the next round. In the Premier League, he's not going to rotate this much again. There could be rotation in game week 14. It's midweek Premier League game, but it ain't going to be the whole team. And obviously, for a player like O'Reilly, Aït-Nouri is going to go to African Cup of Nations as well. So I'm never usually this confident, but O'Reilly's got to be like a 90-95% chance of starting this week. He possibly starts midweek as well. Then he's going to start against Sunderland. Then you're getting really close to African Cup of Nations. I just think O'Reilly looks like on free hit. O'Reilly, Foden, Doku, even Cherky as well, Haaland. They're just all really good picks now. Vardiol, Diaz, you can go for any of them. If I was looking to like actually buy a player rather than free hit, I think obviously Haaland. That's a no-brainer. And then probably Doku, Foden, O'Reilly are the ones that most interest me. I don't hate Vardiol either or Diaz, but I just think O'Reilly's the most interesting one because it's not like Vardiol and Diaz are necessarily amazing for defensive contributions anyway. So if you're buying a Man City defender, you are kind of going a bit old school and looking for the most attacking one. And O'Reilly's also quite cheap as well. Likes to take a shot, likes to get in the box. So yeah, this was really good. And also, in terms of extra incentive to buy Man City players, you've got the top up in 16. So worst case scenario, you take a punt on Doku, you take a punt on O'Reilly for Leeds at home, Fulham away, Sunderland at home. And if it goes wrong, you sell them in game week 16. And if it goes right, you start thinking about the points you're going to get in game week 17 against West Ham at home. So yeah, I like them all. I've got Haaland in my actual team. I probably won't be looking to add any more Man City players because I'm free hit this week. And so I'll skip them for Fulham away and Palace away. But honestly, I think if I get to 5th, like I've already thought this morning, when I get to game week 15, I've been eyeing up doing Senesi to Vandenberg, ready for Vandenberg's good fixture in game week 16, like ahead of the top up to get my transfer used. If I've got the money, Senesi to Nico O'Reilly to play him against Sunderland at home is going to be super tempting. Although his price will have gone up by that point, so I might not be able to afford it. But yeah, anyway, Man City, this was good for FPL. Haaland, Doku, Foden, O'Reilly, probably the ones that I'd mostly be looking at right now. But Vardio and Diaz, not terrible either. So for Chelsea against Barcelona, a couple of interesting things. Reece James started in midfield alongside Caicedo, which meant that Enzo Fernandez played number 10. And up front, it was actually Pedro Neto. João Pedro and Liam Delap were both on the bench. Esteval played on the right, and then Garnacho was on the left. And Cole Palmer, by the way, who's back in training now, wasn't in the squad at all. So it seems quite unlikely he'll be involved against Arsenal. I guess the best case scenario is on the bench and maybe comes on for a few minutes. I'm going to talk about Palmer a little bit later, but right now he's probably not one to worry about. Ultimately, I think these changes were made specifically for Barcelona, and also because it was midweek, it gave Maresca a chance to make a few changes. Because again, although it's a huge game on paper, and obviously Chelsea will be absolutely buzzing to win 3-0, the jeopardy in the Champions League is not quite there. Like, it's almost more important to have your full-strength team in the Premier League because of the way the system is set up. So I don't for 1 second think we're going to see Pedro Neto up front in any of these next few Premier League games. I mean, could he do it against Arsenal? I highly doubt it. And he's probably not going to do it against Leeds away, Bournemouth away, or Everton at home. I think we'll see a more traditional kind of Liam Delap or João Pedro. Ultimately, Chelsea are just an easy avoid, I think. Arsenal at home's not great. Leeds away's fine, but it is away rather than at home. Then it's another away game against Bournemouth. Everton at home's fine in 16. And if you're on free hit, I think you'll be looking at them that week. But then it's Newcastle away. So to buy them, I just don't see any point. And if you've got Enzo Fernandez, obviously you're absolutely happy that you've just got 11 points against Burnley. But now he's playing Arsenal. Like, it's probably time to get rid. Especially, like, if you've got Enzo Fernandez and you're not quite sure what to do, but you also don't know what you're going to do with your transfers for other players, like, that's short-term punt now. Enzo Fernandez into someone like Doku this week or Cherky, and then maybe swap them again in game week 14 or 15. I don't see the point in keeping hold of him. Reece James you can't keep hold of because you can't fully trust the minutes. Like, if you've got someone like Chalobah and you picked him up at 5.1, then okay, maybe you bench him against Arsenal, play him against Leeds, bench him against Bournemouth, play him against Everton. But that's about it. Sanchez is probably the only one I would look at if I was wildcarding this week as a long-term move. But even then, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man City between now and game week 20, the Newcastle and City games are both away. Like, is he better than a cheaper Verbruggen or a Petrovic? Maybe, but there's not a huge amount in it. So, interesting lineup from Chelsea. Great result. Fair play to them. Esteval, again, didn't watch it, but by all accounts, he's a special player. And if he ever becomes nailed in FPL, we'll all be there. Right now, I just feel like they're easy ignores. So, captaincy for game week 13. Yes, you're right. This is an absolutely pointless discussion, but I'm going to do it anyway because I do this segment every single week in the game week preview. And I'll touch on triple captaincy a little bit as well. You guessed it. It's Erling Haaland against Leeds at home. This is the type of insight and analysis that gets you coming back to this channel every single week. Erling Haaland is the best captain against Leeds at home. I bet you don't hear that anywhere else. Yeah, you should probably just do it. If you had any doubts, and I can't even begin to think what those doubts would be about, he even got rested last night. It's got to be him. If you really wanted to go against Haaland, you could go for Salah maybe against West Ham away. But honestly, at this point, that almost feels like a nostalgia pick. Because he hasn't really done anything this season to warrant thinking about him as captain, other than the fact he's playing West Ham. But even in that case, it's an away game. So it's Haaland. If you want to take a punt on Thiago or Sharda or Foden or Doku or Cherky or Salah or Gakpo, whoever it might be, go for it. But the best captain is Haaland. Triple captain, would I use it this week? Lots of people are asking me what's better, triple captain 13 or free hit 13. The only thing I can say is, figure out the best week for free hit for your team. That is more important. And then fit the triple captain in around that. Because if for your team, free hit 13 is miles better than any other week, you can just triple captain Haaland in a different week. Against Sunderland at home in 15 or West Ham at home in 17. The only slight risk you run into is that you free hit this week and Haaland gets injured before those two good games. Who cares? You just captain someone else. It's not the end of the world. Free hit is much more important to get right than triple captain. So think about that first and then fit triple captain around it. If you look at it and say, no, free hit's better in 15, 16, 17, whatever it might be, then triple captain him this week. You know he's fit. He's just been rested. Leeds at home. Great fixture. Do I think the West Ham at home is slightly better than Leeds? Sure, maybe. But not enough in it to not triple captain him this week, I don't think. Because you know he's fit. The fixture is right there in front of you. Anything could happen in a few game week's time. The reason I think West Ham are just pretty bad, by the way, that's one reason. But also, Marmoush will be at African Cup of Nations then. There's not really anyone to sub on for Haaland. Now, he could just play someone else, false nine, like unorthodox Foden, Bernardo Silva, something like that. But Haaland's minutes are maybe a little bit better against West Ham than against Leeds. But again, he's just been rested, so he's fine. So I think triple captain's great this week. If you don't use it this week, it's probably West Ham in 17. Simple as that. If you want a free hit this week and that works for your team, that is more important than using the triple captain, in my opinion. So let's have a quick look at potential suspensions that could be coming soon through yellow card accumulation. Basically, if a player gets to 5 yellow cards in the first 19 matches, they'll be suspended for 1 game. And there's a few players that are already on 4 that could be in people's teams, or maybe that you're looking to buy. Now, I spoke about 4 yellow cards for Munoz yesterday, and I saw one comment saying, why do content creators always try and put us off players that are on 4 yellows? It's not for me to put you off any players. It's just to give you the information. Just because the player's on 4 yellow cards doesn't mean you have to sell them or have to avoid them. It's just something to be aware of. Because if you've already got 2 players on 4 yellows in your team, bringing another one in is quite risky. Because there is obviously scenarios where they all pick up their 5th yellow card in the same week and suddenly you lose them for the next game week. Now, if you're in that situation, maybe that's a really good reason to hold your free hit. Or maybe it's a good reason to not bring in more players that are at risk. So it's just something to be aware of. That's all. If I bring this player in and they get their yellow card soon, how is that going to affect my squad? If the answer is I've got a deep squad, I've got a full set of 15 playing players, it doesn't matter, then of course bring them in if they're better than the other choice, right? If they're better than the other defender or midfielder that you're looking at. So defenders on 4 yellow cards, Senesi at Bournemouth. And obviously, if he picks it up against Sunderland away in game week 13, he's going to miss game week 14 against Everton at home, which is quite a nice fixture. I would say at this point, if you don't have Senesi, you're probably not buying anyway. Like, as an owner, I'm looking to sell him. Because it's Chelsea at home in 15 and Man United away in 16. Yes, it's Burnley at home in 17, which is nice. But then it's Brentford away and Chelsea away. And actually, Bournemouth's long-term fixture run is not that amazing once you're past the Everton game. So if you've got him, I think it's just a case of hope that he doesn't get it against Sunderland because you probably want to play him against Everton at home. Collins at Brentford is also on 4. If you're free hitting this week and you want him, it's obviously not an issue because he can play against Burnley, but just don't buy him. Simple as that. In that case, you do just avoid him and you buy Vandenberg, who arguably is a better option anyway because he's only 4.5 million, got better goal threat so far this season. And actually, I think a lot of people have pointed this out now. Vandenberg's defensive contributions when he plays centre-back are a lot better than when he's played right-back in the past and stuff like that. So he's very competitive for defensive contributions versus Collins anyway. So Vandenberg's probably the pick. Munoz, who I spoke about quite a bit yesterday, again, don't let me put you off buying him. I'm just saying, if he picks up a yellow this week, he's going to miss Burnley away in 14. How much would that affect your team? I've listened to Above Average FPL this week and Planet FPL, and both podcasts have suggested that if, and they're not saying he would do this, but if they wanted to Munoz to miss a specific game, it would be Burnley, which makes sense, by the way. So if they're winning against Man United, could he go out of his way to maybe try and pick up a yellow card? I mean, you can do it without endangering an opponent, right? You can just kick the ball away and the ref gives you a yellow card. You miss Burnley, then you're back for Fulham away, Man City at home, etc. And as the above average guys pointed out, when you get to African Cup of Nations, Sarr's going to be missing. You don't want to be missing Sarr and Munoz. So I'm not saying he will. I'm sure he's a legit player, etc. But I wouldn't be completely surprised if he gets a yellow card this week, misses Burnley away. Would I let that put me off buying him? Again, that's up for you to decide for your team. Dorgu, by the way, I don't think anyone should be looking at Dorgu because he's not fully nailed. But he's on 4 yellow cards somehow. Nico Williams as well. I've seen a few people start to talk about him because he's done well for defensive contributions. I think he got a return attacking-wise against Liverpool. And the fixture run's not bad. And obviously, Sean Dyche is in charge as well now. But there's just no reason to go for him. I don't think the fixture run is that good to risk the 4 yellows. And then there's a few key midfielders that are also on 4 yellows as well. There are a few more players actually on 4 yellows, but I think specifically for FPL, these are the 3 that people might be looking at. So Szoboszlai at Liverpool, spoken about this last week as well. I mean, the fixture on for Liverpool is very good. So if you wanted to risk it, I completely get it. But he's also playing right back as well. It'd be interesting to see where he plays in the Champions League tonight. If he gets moved back into midfield and Liverpool play well, maybe Slot will stick with that. But it's hard to know, right? They don't have Frimpong, they don't have Bradley. Gomez can't really stay fit or play lots of games in quick succession, they're going to have to use Szoboszlai and Jones in that slot over the next few games quite a bit. So I think Szoboszlai's fine because of the fixture run, but the desire to bring him in for me has gone down a lot over the last couple of game weeks, and I think I would just probably ignore him. Sharda for Brentford, I talked about this yesterday on free hit, absolutely fine. I think for anyone looking to bring him in, he's actually on a wildcard draft I'm going to talk about in a minute, so I don't hate it, but only if you've got nothing else to do with your transfers. So you can afford to bring him in. If he picks up the yellow, you get rid of him before Arsenal away, or you can bench him against Arsenal away. I just think with him, because it's only one good fixture in the next three, because afterwards it's Arsenal away, Spurs away, it would be terrible if you get him for Burnley and then you've got to play him Arsenal and Spurs and he picks up that yellow card against Spurs and you miss the Leeds game in game week 16. Like, that would be pretty bad. And I think there's quite a lot of good midfielders at the moment to not necessarily take that risk. So for me, Sharda's basically 1 week punt. And if you want to do that, again, absolutely fine. It's your team, you're managing it, make the decision. But I wouldn't want him in as like a long-term option. And then Xhaka is also on 4 yellows. Now, again, you can make the argument that a 5.2 is quite a good enabler anyway. But honestly, if I'm buying new, there's no way I'm buying Xhaka right now on 4 yellows. The fixture run's not even that great. I mean, that could be good for defensive contributions, of course. But Elliot Anderson's only 0.1 million more. Actually, I'm just going to check that. He might have gone up to 5.4. There's a lot of chat about him. No, he's still 5.3. 100% I'm buying Anderson over Xhaka at this point. He's just as good for defensive contributions, if not slightly better, to be honest. And his attacking numbers are better as well. And if you want to go that cheap and you don't want to go for Anderson, just buy Dewsbury-Hall for 4.9 million. So Xhaka for me is just probably a no-go. So some people asked me to go through a wildcard draft for game week 13. So this is what I've come up with. It's worth saying that this is just a broad overview of what a team could look like. You can take into account how many transfers you've got, what other chips you've got left to play and stuff like that, which might have an effect on how you build the team. So for example, if you've got bench boost left and you want to use it soon, then Mark Guiu on the bench is not great. You probably want to upgrade that to a Mateta or a Welbeck by downgrading one of the midfielders. Or you can make the decision to wait until after game week 16 when you've got the 5 transfer top up to do it and go for Guiu for a few weeks and then change it later. Likewise, if you've got your free hit left, that's also going to be worth considering. Maybe you want to go for more Man City and Brighton players because you're going to free hit in 16. Maybe you've earmarked 15. Whatever it might be, you're going to have to consider that for your own team. This is more of a broad overview. And again, actually, one other thing. If you're sat there with 3 free transfers and you've hit the button, then you can take much shorter term punts than someone that's only got 1 transfer next week. So all these things need to be thought about. In goal, I've gone for Verbruggen and Dubravka. If you got Raya early at like 5.5 million, maybe you could keep hold of him, but he has gone up quite a lot in price. If you're buying new, he's now 5.9 million, and I think he's a pretty good pick. I don't buy into all this, he only gets 2 or 6, therefore he's bad, but at 5.9 million, I do question the value. So I think unless you got him early, you just go cheap. I wouldn't go for Donnarumma, I wouldn't go for Pipe, I don't think I would go for Alisson either, although he's not terrible at 5.3. I just like Verbruggen. I think he's only 4. I'm going to double check that. I think he's only 4.4. Now, I will say the Verbruggen and Kelleher rotation is quite nice, but because Brentford have got Burnley at home this week, I quite like Vandenberg as well. I've taken a punt on Sharda, and then Thiago is just really good value. So I didn't actually have room for Kelleher. You could maybe... The one thing I would consider is Verbruggen and Kelleher for rotating goalkeepers rather than having Dubravka and just drop Sharda for someone else. Like, honestly, I put this graphic together yesterday afternoon. I must admit this morning I'm thinking I probably should just have more Man City players in because they're just... That rotation last night just means good things, I think, moving forward in the league, although it is Pep. Anyway, Verbruggen, Dubravka, that could be Verbruggen and Kelleher, or you could spend more on a goalkeeper if you wanted to. I don't mind Sanchez either. The back 3 this week is Vandenberg, Munoz, Lacroix. I've got Timber on the bench. If I had this team, would I actually bench Timber? Maybe not, but I think he is worse than Lacroix, Munoz, and Vandenberg this week. So I think you can make an argument to do it. Either way, I like him longer term. And then Anderson is just good value. You don't play him this week or next week. And then from 15 to 19, I think it is, he's got very playable fixtures. Great for DEFCON. It's just good value at 4.5. Now, honestly, if I was wildcarding this week, I would probably go with Van Dijk, but I know people kind of hate him right now. And I would go for Van Dijk over, just from a value money perspective, probably over Munoz.
because I think getting the money from Lacroix to Van Dijk is quite difficult. If you can do that, then absolutely go for it. But I think Lacroix's like great. Like Munoz has just got a 14-pointer, don't get me wrong. Lacroix's only 7 points behind him for the season. And he's maybe been a bit unlucky to not get attack and returns himself. So Munoz is great, but I think there's going to be this clamour for him this week specifically because he's just got a 14-pointer. And he is a really good pick. He probably is the most attacking defender in the league. So I don't hate it. But if he'd blanked last week, people wouldn't be so worried about him, right? So I think I would go for Van Dijk because I'm an idiot and I just look at those fixtures and he's going to play every single game over the Christmas period. But Lacroix and Munoz in their own right are both really good options. Schade, Minte, Saka, Fernandes in Burmo, midfield, and then Haaland, Thiago, Guiu up front. The only other forwards I'd be looking at are probably Welbeck and Mateta. So if you want to fit them in, absolutely, you can work this however you want. If you hate Fernandes as a pick, just drop him, put Mateta up front maybe. You can do it whatever you want. I just think with Man United players, the next two fixtures are really nice after Palace away. Like, okay, it's not ideal having double Man United away to Palace, especially when I've got double defence for Palace, right? It's not ideal. I get that. You can mix it up if you want. But Man United got West Ham at home in 14, really good fixture. Wolves away in 15, really good fixture. Even Bournemouth at home in 16 is not bad. Then you sell in Burmo for African Cup of Nations. And Fernandes is just, in my opinion, quite a good long-term pick. I really like Saka too. That's a price point where you're close to Palmer as well. So if Palmer becomes an option, that's good. But also Saka, if you wanted to go against HAALAND captain in 14, 16, he's got better fixture on paper. And I think his minutes will just be good. Minte's great value. And Shade's a 1 week punt that you look to get rid of next week. Because you've got to start thinking a bit more short term. If you want to go for Doku or Cherki, or you want to stick Foden in there, absolutely fine. If you want to go for O'Reilly in defence, I rate that. And honestly, if I'd put this draft together this morning rather than before that City game, I think O'Reilly might be in here instead of maybe one of the Palace players or something like that. Or maybe even instead of Vandenberg, if you can afford it, and come back to Vandenberg in game week 16. Or just get rid of Vandenberg for O'Reilly and stick Kelleher as a rotation with Verbruggen. It all depends how much money you've got. But as a base, I think that's a nice starting point. So speaking of Bruno Fernandes, let's get into some of your questions. So is Bruno a keep or sell? 9 million for a player who's missed penalties and is barely getting any returns. Now, I just need to put a trigger warning on this before I give my answer. I am going to defend Bruno Fernandes as an FPL pick a little bit here. And I know people hate that, so I've got chapters in the video and on the podcast. If you want to skip to the next section, by all means do it. I am going to defend Bruno a little bit. You have been warned. Barely getting any returns, I would question that because technically he's only blanked once in the last 5 game weeks. Now, by all means, go and look at the scores. They're not huge. And one of the weeks was just defensive contributions for 4 points, which you could argue doesn't count. But technically, he's only blanked once in the last 5 weeks, which was against Everton. And by the way, in that Everton game, 11 defensive contributions, so came close to getting the additional 2 points. And I know people will laugh at that, 9 million for defensive contributions. But that would have put him on more points than Haaland this week, more points than Salah, etc. So he's come close. And I know I've said that a lot, right? He's the nearly man this season. But at some point, you keep doing these things, it converts into points. And then for his expected goal involvement in this blank, 0.67. In comparison, in Burma was 0.39. So this is what I'm saying with Bruno Fernandes. He's so much more heavily scrutinised than any other player. After that game, I saw so many tweets. Why am I paying 9 million for a defensive midfielder? That defensive midfielder has put up better attacking numbers than in Burmo, who plays in, well, not the front three, but, the number 10 position. Now, this is not me saying Burmo's a bad pick or that Bruno Fernandes is better. I'm just pointing out there's a different level of scrutiny on Fernandes as a pick. And yes, he's more expensive, etc. Against Spurs, 5-pointer assist. Against Forest, 5-pointer assist. Brighton, defensive contributions, 4-pointer. And then Liverpool, 1 assist, 3 bonus, 8 points. So, he's not getting any returns, but actually he's not blanked very much recently at all. And then missed penalties. Sure, players miss penalties. Thiago's just missed a penalty. Does that mean we sell him? Probably not, right? And I know he's cheaper, etc. I'm just making the point that that's in the past now. It's about what's coming in the future. Look, if you want to sell him, you should sell him. I've said this so many times in the past. People get frustrated with Fernandes more than any other player. See it all the time. Just sell him. If it makes you more sane, you should do it. If you're waiting for me to sell him, I've got some bad news. It's not going to happen anytime soon. I can't sell him before game week 15, that's for sure. West Ham at home in 14, Wolves away in 15. really good fixtures. I know he's going to play every minute, penalties, etc. When I get to game week 16 and I got 5 free transfers, I find it hard to believe that I'm going to think I need to use one on Fernandes. He's got Bournemouth at home, that's fine. Then we're getting into Christmas. He's going to play every single game. And after that Newcastle at home game in 18, it's Wolves at home, Leeds away, Burnley away. So between now and game week 21, he gets to play West Ham, Wolves, Wolves again, Leeds and Burnley. And then there's home games in there against Bournemouth and Newcastle, which are not great, but they're at home. And I know I'm saying this after Man United have just lost 1-0 to Everton, and they were awful, but we need to be careful about not completely changing our opinions. Like, people have been bringing in, like, I see stuff all the time. You can't go Fernandes, he plays for Man United. Guess who Brian Mbeumo plays for? And no one's got a problem with him. So I just think we're coming into a period with a lot of games in quick succession. You've got a player that plays all the games anyway and doesn't have Europe. He's on penalties. And every time he blanks, we hear the defensive midfielder rubbish. His attacking numbers are not that bad. Like, they're not amazing, but you know the numbers he's showing you get because he plays 90 minutes. So I'm not going to say, unless you're desperate for the money, I can't believe that Bruno Fernandes is a priority. And by the way, just for the devil's advocate part of this argument, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who's 4.9 million, has higher points per match than Fernandes, 4.4. Fernandes has 4.3. He's not value for money. I've said that before. There will be loads of players who are cheaper than Fernandes that will score more points. And if you are confident who those players are, absolutely go and buy them instead. The thing you get with Fernandes is a level of certainty and consistency. You know he's going to keep up around 4.5, maybe push to 5 points per match. You can't be as sure with those cheaper players. And that's where sometimes you pay the extra money. Like, actually, even like someone like Saka, he's probably not value for money. Like, there will be cheaper players that do better than Saka, but I know with Saka what I'm getting. I know with Fernandes what I'm getting. And one thing I think is really difficult to analyse after the fact is, what does Bruno... And this is going to sound like me just trying to make a terrible argument for him, but I was thinking about it recently. By owning Bruno Fernandes and never having to worry about him getting injured or being taken out of the team, how much does that gain me elsewhere by having spare transfers for other moves? I don't have the answer, by the way, but I just wonder. Like, while people are trying to find these players that the minutes aren't quite so good, but they've got the good fixtures and all, then they're taken out of the team, so I've got to transfer them to someone else. How many points have I gained by just not having to worry about Bruno and just playing him every week and knowing he's always going to start and he's going to chip in with points along the way? The answer is I don't know, but there is some value there knowing you never have to worry about him. So by all means, sell him, but I do not believe he's the priority for anyone unless you're desperate for the money. Would you buy him right now? I mean, maybe not, but if I was Wildcard, I'd probably include him, honestly. He's just super handy to have, especially over a congested fixture period. And the returns are coming. I saw of it. The returns are coming. And people will laugh about the defensive contributions, but when he puts up a DEFCON game and gets an assist and 3 bonus, and he hits double digits through 1 assist, you won't be laughing then. That one return he's going to get in the next 6 game weeks, I'll be the last one laughing. Sell him if you want. So Munoz on free hit 13 is very tempting. Would you include him or not go there at all? This is what I would say, and I think 2 things can be true at once. One, he's just a good pick this week. If you want to go for him, you absolutely should. I certainly wouldn't write him off. I wouldn't say, no, you cannot pick him. So 1, he's a good pick. 2, because he's just got a 14-pointer, and because Man United were awful against Everton, that has meant that more people want him now that maybe weren't considering him before. So just think about that, right? Is he going to go and get another 14-pointer? Obviously, he's capable of doing that, but it's more likely that he doesn't get 14 points, right? I think that's fairly obvious to kind of point out. So would I include him? Maybe. A lot of it depends what I want to do with my attack, and I'll talk about this a bit more tomorrow. But basically, I quite like having a Man City, Brentford and Villa defensive player. So it's almost like there's no room for Munoz. But if I wanted to add an extra attacker from one of those teams, let's say I wanted to go Haaland, Foden and Cherki, or Haaland, Foden and Doku, something like that, and I take out Nico O'Reilly, all of a sudden, I've got to go for a defender that's not from Villa, Brentford or City, who have the best clean sheet odds this week. Therefore, I'd look at someone like Munoz. So he's not in my current draft, but there is no way I would write him off. but also he's more popular because of what happened last week. So another free hit question here. Is the correct play just to ignore Liverpool on free hit? The form isn't there and it feels like buying Salah is just spending the money for the sake of it. This is how I'm looking at it as someone that hasn't activated the chip yet, but probably will over the next couple of days. Liverpool have not been great, but they're not West Ham. And I know West Ham have had some okay results recently. The draw against Bournemouth, they beat Newcastle at home, etc. They beat Burnley as well. But Bournemouth could have scored a lot more than the 2 goals they did. And are we really saying that Liverpool are not capable of scoring a few goals against West Ham away? Don't get me wrong, I'd rather the game was at Anfield, of course. But would you be shocked if Liverpool scored 2 or 3 goals? Really? Like, really shocked? I wouldn't be. West Ham are not very good. And also, against Forest, for example, I'm not for 1 second saying Forest didn't deserve to win, because they did. They were excellent in that game, especially when they got the lead. It was like they were the only team going to score. But in that game, Forest put up about 1.5 XG and scored 3 goals. Liverpool put up close to 2 XG and scored 0. So there is still plenty of attacking potential there. And actually, I tweeted during the first half to say that I actually thought Salah had played quite well in the first 20-30 minutes and was a bit unlucky to not get a return. So I'm not a fan of making... It's the same thing with Munoz. All of a sudden now he's much more popular because of what happened in game week 12. And now because Liverpool have lost 3-0, it feels like you've got to ignore them. Like, if we were choosing this free hit after Liverpool beat Villa, would we be thinking a bit differently? Probably, right? So I just look at it, yes, Liverpool not great, but part of the nice thing about free hit is you don't have to hold these players long term. I get them against a poor West Ham team, and if it fails, it fails. I don't have them in my main team. So, yeah, I think it's fine to go for them. And also, I would argue that there's not much you gain by selling Salah. Like, there's not much you gain from the extra money. Unless you're going to go for like Mbeumo against Palace away or Fernandes against Palace away. Is that really better than Salah against West Ham away? I've put plenty of drafts together. And okay, money is tight, but it's not. It's fairly straightforward to have Haaland and Salah. So the fact that these questions are being asked to me, it just makes me want Salah even more. He's been rubbish this season. He really has. His underlying numbers are right down compared to normal. But if there's any team where those attacking numbers are going to go up, it's against the Leeds, the West Ham, the Wolves, etc. And he's got one of those teams this week. Again, I wish it was at home, but I'm taking it away. If you go and look at the bookies odds that Rob TFPL on Twitter always tweets out every week, I think for goals, Liverpool are projected just over 2. Like, it's basically, for goals specifically, it's Man City because they're playing Leeds, it's Villa because they're playing Wolves, it's Brentford because they're playing Burnley, and it's Liverpool because they're playing West Ham. So once you've got the rest of the team sorted, the next attack I want to target is Liverpool. So, yeah, if you want to ignore them, obviously that's fine. It's your free hit. I won't be. So is Dewsbury-Hall the best 8th attacker in the game this season? I wouldn't definitively say he's the best, but he's definitely worth looking at if you've got a structure that needs a cheap midfielder. Because at 4.9 million, he is great value. Like I mentioned earlier, he's on more points per game, 4.4, than someone like Bruno Fernandes. That's pretty good value for 4.9 million. And he's very playable in a lot of fixtures that are coming up. So I made a big point last week about not wanting to play him. And obviously I got very lucky with him coming off the bench. But actually, I've come around to the fact that if I wasn't free hitting this week and I had to play him against Newcastle, it's okay. If I get to game week 14 and I can't buy Minte because I've got another injury to deal with, it's okay to play Dewsbury-Hall against Bournemouth away. He's playable against Forest at home in 15. Then it's Chelsea away, Arsenal at home in 16, 17, not quite so good. But when you get into the Christmas period, Everton's fixtures are pretty nice. So it's Burnley away in 18, followed by Forest away, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, Villa away, Leeds at home. If I have to play him in any of those games, absolutely fine. He's absolutely nailed. The minutes are great. He's playing number 10. It's funny because the one thing I've consistently said is he doesn't like to shoot, and yet against Man United, obviously he shot with his weak foot, and it was a nice goal, though I think the goalkeeper should have done better, to be honest. But he's on some set pieces as well. Like, can I guarantee that David Moyes won't rotate a little bit over Christmas? No, because we haven't got any data from previous seasons of Dewsbury-Hall being at Everton. It's not like they've got Europe and stuff like that. So I think he'll just play every game. And there's value in players like that when they're 4.9 million. I think if you've got the money, Elliot Anderson is a better pick. Like, he might be 4th choice, but he is at least in the pecking order for penalties, I guess. And as good as Dewsbury-Hall's done the last couple of game weeks where he's got an attack and return and defensive contributions, that's not going to be something that he consistently does. Whereas Elliot Anderson's going to consistently pick up defcons and he can also get you attack and returns as well. Whereas Dewsbury-Hall's going to get you some attack and returns and the odd time get defcon. I think Elliot Anderson will tick over better for 5.3. But I would definitely go Dewsbury-Hall over King at Fulham, like 100%. Potts at West Ham at 4.4. He's not bad for defcons. And you save 0.5. But if I could afford it, I would go Dewsbury-Hall. I would take him playing number 10 for Everton over Potts at West Ham, I think. So yeah, I think he's really good. I'll say this. I'm for my specific structure, look, Van Dijk, whether he ends up being good, I don't know. But I have really come round to just liking this structure of a big defence with a couple of cheap midfielders in Paquetá and Dewsbury-Hall. I just think having nailed, it's really boring. I wish I could sit here and say, forget Dewsbury-Hall, just find the money and get Cherky. But I can't do that because I don't know if Cherky's going to keep playing. I know Dewsbury-Hall is going to keep playing. It's just so handy to have players like that. And by all means, please know that I know I've been super lucky the last couple of weeks. He probably won't go and get another 13-pointer all season, but I think he will get points for you over a period of time if you have to play him enough. So yeah, I think it's fine. If you want to go cheap, for whatever reason, 4.9 is great. But if you can afford Elliot Anderson, I think he probably is better. So Liverpool defenders versus Man City defenders, who are the best ones to go for? So for Liverpool, the only choice in my opinion is Van Dijk. I wouldn't take the risk with Konate. I think it's worth spending the money for Van Dijk. Frimpong and Bradley are injured, and Kirkes, you've always got the worry of Robertson. So for Liverpool, it has to be Van Dijk. For Man City, I think O'Reilly is my favourite defender if they all get equal minutes. But if you want to play it safe for minutes over a long period of time, it's probably Diaz or Vardiol. If you look at the fixtures, I think game weeks 13 to 20 that I've got listed here, you could probably give it just about to Liverpool over the entire run, but it's really close. And actually, in the short term, Man City get to play Leeds at home this week, Sunderland at home in 15, and West Ham in 17. So I think next 5 weeks, Man City's fixtures are better. It's just whether or not you're willing to risk a Man City defender. Because with Van Dijk next 5, they're not as good, but he's going to play every single one of those, and he's good for defensive contributions, and he has his own goal threat. Can you say the same, all those things, for any Man City player, that they're nailed, defcons, and attacking threat? No. O'Reilly's got attacking threat, not really defcons. Definitely first choice. Will he start all 5? It's more difficult to know. So if you want the safe option, it's Van Dijk. If you want the interesting option, I think if you want to play it, if you want to go slightly more interesting but play it safe-ish, I'd probably go Vardiol. But if you want the exciting, interesting, old school option, it's O'Reilly. Who would I buy? You know, it'd probably be Van Dijk because I'd want to play it safe. I'd want to, like, as much as we've got transfers to burn by 15 and 5 transfers in 16 to do interesting choices, I still want to think long term. Because you might get to 16 or 17 with all these short-term transfers in mind. You pick up a few injuries, that's out the window. And so having players in place like Fernandes, like Van Dijk, that you don't have to worry about for minutes is quite nice. So I would still be my ultra-boring self and buy Van Dijk. Then Vardiol. Then I really do like O'Reilly, though, honestly. Because you haven't got consistent defcons with Vardiol, it makes him a little bit less interesting. And O'Reilly's cheaper. He just seems to pop up in the box from open play quite a bit. So yeah, probably Van Dijk, then Vardiol-ish, then O'Reilly, something like that. I know if you want to keep him for like 10, 12 weeks, definitely Van Dijk. No doubt about that. I'll leave that one there. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like. If you found it useful as well, make sure to subscribe. Plenty more to come. I did double check, by the way. I spent more time defending Bruno Fernandes than I did talking about Wildcard. I'm passionate about it, all right? I think he's an okay pick. I'm off. Give it a like, hit subscribe. I'll catch you again tomorrow.